Okay, this is how to set up the cam for your MemoPad for our CNC router. Once you're completely done modeling your MemoPad, everything has to be done first. I'm going to click up here and activate the cam operation. I have to initially have a setup. This is where I tell the CNC router where I'm going to establish my zeros, the size of the stock, the basic information about my part before they start cutting. In this case right here, I want to make sure my Z-axis is pointing up. If it is not, you're going to go ahead and select Z-axis and pick any vertical axes. Not face. A vertical axis could be this one. You could use this axis right here, any vertical edge on your part, and then make sure it's pointing up like that. Once you have that set up, you want to click where it says box point. This establishes numerous points around this yellow goldish silhouette. This is where you are going to go ahead and tell the router when you move into the wood shop where that bit is going to be at 000, so it knows how far to move in this direction and in this direction to start making this cut. I typically always choose the top left corner. It's just something that's easy for me to remember. Also notice the orientation of my part, my x-axis. I'm going to put my piece in the router, I guess in landscape mode as opposed to portrait mode. So I don't want to put in my piece where it's tall and skinny like this because x-axis is going across like that. So now I have, that's where I'm going to establish 0, the top left-hand corner. I have my x-axis going a long ways, so I know how to put my part in. My z-axis going up, so my tool knows how to come down correctly. Click on the stock tab. In this case, we are going to make a fixed size box. I made a mistake here and I have millimeters as my units. We're going to be using inches, so this is actually going to have to restart my cam. Fixed size box, and the piece I'm getting is 11.25 by 6.5 by 0.75. Alright, so I have plenty of wood here to cut out my MemoPad. Alright, so this is the piece of wood I'm going to be given. This is my pad itself. Therefore, I have plenty of room to screw down my stock to my router table, and I don't actually have to worry about hitting those screws. Go ahead and click OK. So now that my setup's okay, I'm going to start my operations. These two pocket cuts are of different depth, but I can do them on the same operation. So I'm over here where it says 2D pocket. I'm going to select my tool. I have a huge libraries of tools. Sometimes they're kind of hard to find. So first thing I'm going to do is operation. This is going to filter out some of the tools. Click pocket, click OK. I'm going to select inch aluminum and 1/4 inch flat end mill, and I'm going to click OK. The default settings for our 1/4 inch flat end mill actually work pretty good for us, so we're going to go ahead and keep all these. These are very important to learn, but for this project right now, we'll go ahead and just use the default settings so we can learn the interface better. Geometry. You want to make sure you're selecting the bottom of each pocket. And like I said earlier, even though they're different depths, you can still do this as one operation. Just make sure you're selecting the bottom of each pocket. Next tab are my heights. So clearance height, this is how far the bit's going to pick up to move over around the part. Retract height, how far it picks up just to move in between tool paths. Let's see, my bottom height, it's going to cut to the selected contours. That's why it was so important to select the bottom of your pocket cut and not the top of your pocket cut, because that's how far it's going to cut down, so it knows where to stop. My top height, I always add 0.1 to my stock top, because that's actually going to force the tool to start cutting above my stock. Once you do that, you have to increase the retract height by the same amount, so I'll make this 0.3. And we should be good here. My passes. I don't want any stock to leave. This is usually for things that are maybe not going to be a finishing. You're going to take them back and you're going to sand them or stain them or whatever you're going to do to them to actually not clear out all your stock. We want to clear out everything. We're going to go multiple depths, and we're going to change this to 0.1. That's the depth that my 1/4 inch flat end mill can do inside a wood. Everything else should be good. I'm going to click on my linking tab. Everything looks good. And I'm going to find OK. It should generate a toolpath for me. Takes a little bit. And I'm just going to look to verify, okay, that does make sense. I have multiple paths. That's dropping down 0.1 each time. Over here, this is a much shallower cut, dropping down 0.1 each time, so it doesn't quite take as many toolpaths. All right, I'm happy with that. Now I got to cut my perimeter out. This is called a 2D contour. We're going to stick with the same tool, so we're good there. All right, geometry. This is critical. You need to have tabs. All right, we're going to have our tab width 0.25, our tab height 0.25. This ensures that my stock can safely be taken out of the router. Everything else is going to be good there. And I'm going to go ahead and select the bottom contour edge. Notice that it kind of ghosts in these tabs right here, so I make sure that I have those in place. Without tabs, you are going to break something. Your stock will fly out of the router. You need to have these tabs, and you need to make sure they're at a minimum of a 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. My heights, I'm going to do the same thing. My passes, I'm going to go here to where it says multiple depths. And on my last tab, I want to make sure it does not say keep tool down. That is unchecked. Go ahead and click OK. Notice how you can see the tool path where it's actually picking up for those tabs. That's exactly what I want to see. All right. I could look at both of them. I could look at them both together. Everything appears to be just fine. Once you have it both set up, I'm going to right click on setup and go to post process. Now this is the area you need a flash drive for. This gets a little complex, but for all you need to know, right here on my configuration file, these are the various languages for different routers. Ours uses a EMC, Enhanced Machine Controller. So we're going to select that one. Our output folder, you're going to select your flash drive. So you'll have to put a flash drive in there. I'm going to put mine on my desktop for now. And program, I'm going to say call in MemoPad. Everything else is going to be just fine. Make sure it is a .ngc. This is the only type of file our CNC routers, or the computer on our CNC routers can see. Click post. Everything looks good there. Click save. And you should see a big long file of all of your tool paths. So once you post process, these are all the this is the code that the router knows how to read and communicate with your 3D model. So you should have, you know, a decent amount, maybe not as much as this, depending on how many arcs and stuff you have in your part, but I have 5,000 lines of code. If you have like 50 lines of code, that's a problem. If you have 500-600 and you have a pretty simple part, that's probably okay. Typically we have anywhere from about 2,000, and more complex geometry will get into the 50-60,000. So just really it's an issue only that you have if you have like 100 lines of code. So something's probably not correct. All right, you're now ready to get your wood and go over to the CNC router. Thank you.